Okay, so have you ever, like, really thought about sounds?
Sounds.
Yeah, like the actual sounds we make with our mouths when we're talking. Not the words themselves, but how we actually make them.
Hmm. Yeah, I guess I don't think about it too much. It's just kind of automatic, right?
Exactly. It's like we take them for granted, but when you try to write them down,
Yeah.
it's like, eh. Well, it's like trying to explain what spicy tastes like. Words only go so far.
That's a good point, right?
We have the alphabet, but
Mm.
letters are just for spelling, not really the sound itself.
True, true.
And then there's the IPA, the International Phonetic Alphabet, which is supposed to be the system,
Yeah.
right, for like every sound humans can make.
Right. It's pretty comprehensive.
It is. But
Yeah.
even the IPA has its limits.
I see what you mean. Like trying to fit a square peg in a round hole sometimes.
Exactly. Some sounds just don't fit neatly into those predefined boxes.
Yeah.
And that's what makes this deep dive so interesting, at least to me anyway.
Oh.
We're looking at this research paper, right? All about EKPA, which is this whole new way of understanding and, more importantly, I think, categorizing sounds.
EKPA, that's the one that's like feature-based, right?
Yeah.
Instead of just like symbols for sounds, it breaks each sound down.
You've been doing your homework. That's exactly it. It's like giving each sound its own DNA profile or something, which I love.
And it uses the set of, wait, how many is it? 12? 12 binary features to do it, which I think is just so elegant.
Hold on, binary.
Yeah.
Like, yes or no, it either is or isn't something.
Yep, exactly.
See, that's seriously cool.
Yeah.
Because it gets rid of all the wishy-washiness. With EKPA, a sound either has that feature or it doesn't. No ambiguity.
Exactly. It makes the whole system so much more precise.
Okay, so I get that it's cool, but like, big picture, how does this change things? It's not just swapping out one set of symbols for another, is it? This is about how we think about sounds, right?
Absolutely. It goes way deeper. EKPA is about understanding the underlying structure of sounds. And what's really cool is it reveals these surprising connections between sounds that we might not otherwise think are related at all.
Okay, now you have to give me an example.
Yeah.
What's like the most mind-blowing example of these binary features in action?
All right, let's talk about the feature strident.
Strident, like aggressive.
Kind of think of sounds like is or if, those classic like
Buckra.
hissing sounds.
Okay, yeah, I get it. Those are pretty harsh sounds.
Exactly. Now, most people, when they think of strident, they think of those kinds of sounds, right? But EKPA says, hold on a second, we're going to broaden this definition. It actually includes sounds that we don't usually think of as hissy at all, like L. Even some R sounds.
Wait, L is strident. What's so harsh about an L?
It's all about how the air is flowing when you make the sound. EKPA says strident is any sound where the airflow is being directed right at an obstacle.
An obstacle? Like what?
So for is and F, it's your teeth. The air is hitting your teeth. But for L, it's the sides of your tongue. The air is flowing around your tongue, and that's creating the strident quality. And those rolling R's, that's your tongue tapping rapidly against the roof of your mouth. That becomes the obstacle you see.
Whoa. So my tongue is an obstacle to itself. It's like a tiny tongue twister workout happening in there every time I say L.
That's a great way to put it. And this might seem like a small change, right? Just how we define strident. But it actually has some pretty big implications.
Like what? Why does it matter if an L is acting like a sneaky S in my mouth?
Well, think about how babies learn language. This suggests that they might be picking up on these underlying features like strident, this idea of airflow meeting an obstacle from a really young age.
So they're not just mimicking what they hear.
Maybe not entirely. It's possible they're figuring out these like fundamental rules of sound production as they're experimenting and making sounds even before they can form words. It's like their brains are already tuned into these patterns.
So babies are like these little linguists running around, cracking the code of language. That's way more impressive than just goo goo gaga.
Right. And this is just one example, one feature. EKPA has 12 of them. And each one, I think, offers this whole new layer of understanding about how we produce sounds, how we hear them, how we as babies learn them. It's really pretty amazing.
So before the break, you were telling me about EKPA shorthand, like musical notation, but for sounds.
Yeah. It's way more elegant than just, listing out all 12 features every single time.
Oh, good. Because can you imagine, like, if every time a composer wanted to write a C sharp, they had to write out, play the note 1/2 step above C. Talk about tedious, right?
Exactly. It'd be a nightmare to write, let alone read. And that's essentially what EKPA avoids. They have these symbols.
Elegant little symbols that pack in all that information.
You got it. One symbol, boom, you know everything about that sound.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. Like learning a new alphabet, I guess. but once you know it.
It's like you've got this whole secret language for understanding how we speak. And the best part is, EKP isn't just theoretical. Some linguists sitting in a room making up symbols. It's being used to understand real languages in new ways.
Okay, so spill the tea. Give me an example of a language EKPA has helped to, like, illuminate.
Let's talk about Seoul Korean.
Ooh, Seoul Korean, land of K-pop and amazing food. What about it?
Have you ever heard of aspirated versus non-aspirated sounds?
Like when you say a P with a puff of air versus without.
Bingo.
Yeah, it's subtle, but in some languages I know it can, like, completely change what a word means, right?
Exactly. And the thing is, in Seoul Korean, these sounds, they're actually, like, evolving. Linguists think they might even be turning into tones, like the kind of tones we see in Mandarin Chinese.
So, like, the very building blocks of how people are speaking Korean are changing.
Mm-hmm.
That's wild. But how can we even tell that's happening?
That's where EKPA swoops in to save the day, because it breaks those sounds down into these, like, hyper-specific features. Linguists can actually use EKPA to track those really subtle shifts in how people pronounce things over time. It's like having this high-powered microscope, but for language change.
That's incredible. So it's not just a static system. EKB is a tool for understanding how language itself changes. It's like alive.
Exactly. It's a snapshot of language in motion. And that's just one example. Want to hear about another language? One that takes sound to a whole other level.
Do I ever? Hit me with it.
All right, let's jump over to Jalapa Mazatec. It's a language spoken in Mexico.
Okay, Jalapa Mazatec, got it.
And they are all about these things called, get ready for it, glottal features.
Glottal features.
Yeah.
Sounds intimidating.
It's not as scary as it sounds. Basically, it means they use their vocal cords in ways that most languages don't. Think of that, like really distinct, almost creaky sound you hear at the beginning or end of some words.
Oh, like a vocal fry, but way cooler. I love those.
You got it. It's like a little vocal surprise. Now, Jalapa Mazatec takes those kinds of sounds and they just run with them. They use them in all these super intricate ways that would make your head spin.
Okay, I'm already lost, but I'm here for it.
And EKPA helps us make sense of it all. It provides the framework we need to really analyze these sounds because, some sounds are just really hard to capture with traditional systems.
So, 2 languages down. Are there any languages out there that can challenge EKPA? Anything it can't handle?
Well, the researchers did mention this one language, Daraksen. It's spoken in southern Africa, and it's famous for having this, like, mind-bogglingly large number of sounds, clicks, pops, combinations that would make your tongue tie itself in knots.
Whoa, and even EKP is like, yeah, I don't know about that one.
Well, for now at least. And that's the really cool part, isn't it? It's a work in progress, which means there's still room for it to grow and adapt.
So what you're saying is this is like an open invitation for any language nerds out there who want to get involved?
100%. Because the more linguists use EKPA, the more we test it against different languages, the more refined it's going to become. But even now, these core principles, these 12 features, they offer this amazing new perspective on something we hear every single day. Make sounds.
It really is amazing. When you think about it, something we use so effortlessly is actually this incredibly complex system.
Mm-hmm.
But before we go too far down that rabbit hole, I'm still really curious about this shorthand. Tell me, is it really as cool as you're making it sound? This whole time, I have to admit, I've been picturing linguists huddled around, like comparing pages of pluses and minuses for all 12 features.
Okay.
But there's a shorthand, right? You mentioned it earlier.
Oh, yeah. It's way more elegant than that.
Okay, good. So tell me more. What's it like?
Imagine, instead of writing out all those features, strident, NF-voiced, alveolar, which, let's be honest, is a mouthful even without the pluses and minuses, you have one symbol. One. And that one symbol encapsulates all that info.
Okay, so it's like, what's it like those shorthand symbols doctors use in medical charts?
Yeah.
A quick, elegant way to, like, jot down really complex information.
Exactly. And just like, if you were to learn how to read those medical symbols, you'd have this whole other layer of understanding about the human body.
Right.
Well, it's the same thing with EKP's shorthand. You learn that, and suddenly you're seeing the sounds of language in this whole new way.
It's like you're cracking a secret code. But we're not just talking about describing sounds that already exist, are we?
What do you mean?
Well, you said earlier that EKPA could be used to create entirely new sounds, like sounds that humans have never made before. How is that even possible?
Well, think of it this way. If sounds are the building blocks of language, right, then EKPA, it's like a set of blueprints. It's showing us all the possible ways those building blocks can be combined, even the ones we haven't discovered yet.
So by, like, playing around with different combinations of those 12 features, even combinations that don't exist in any language we know of, we could invent new sounds.
It's not quite as simple as, plugging numbers into a computer program and out pops a new sound, but you're on the right track.
Okay, but close enough.
Close enough. EKPA gives us this framework, right, for imagining and then potentially even producing sounds that no one's ever heard before.
See, this is what I love about linguistics. It's like mind-blowing. It's not just describing language as it is. It's like pushing the boundaries, expanding the possibilities of what language could be.
Exactly. That's what's so exciting about it.
It really is. So for anyone listening who might be thinking, why should I care about a new phonetic alphabet? What would you say? Why does this matter?
Because it's not just about, memorizing a bunch of new symbols. It's about changing the way you think about sound, about language, about the amazing things that our brains are capable of.
Like a new lens, right, for looking at the world.
Exactly.
But
right.
instead of seeing things differently, you're hearing things differently. You'll be walking around noticing all those strident sounds popping up in places you never would have thought of before.
Exactly. And who knows, maybe someday, thanks to systems like EKPA, we'll be communicating in ways that right now we can't even imagine. The future of language is full of possibilities.
Now that is a thought to end on. So if you're ready to start hearing the world with new ears, well, EKPA is out there waiting for you. This deep dive was just the tip of the iceberg, believe me. Go explore.